Welcome to the Rainey Leadership Podcast, where we do a deep dive into company culture. Rainey is a car dealership located throughout South Georgia, and we are striving to be the best car company by first being the best care company. And one way that we do that is by meeting every week and talking about company culture. Today, we're going to be diving into the book Culture Rules by Mark Miller. Today's episode is another two-parter with our general manager, Tommy McDonald. Let's dive in.
All right. Okay, well, good morning to you. We'll be on page 163. It really is just the title page for the third section, which is rule number 3, which is to adapt. And of course, thank you for being here. We're starting just a little bit late. You know, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. You know, that's what a lot of times preachers do. I'm going to have you out of here by 9. And it's 9:30? No, I'm not going to do that to you today. I think it will be rather brief. We're trying to cover a lot of material. But listen, I have enjoyed this book, but you know, you can kind of get bogged down in the details of all the stuff as it kind of gets into the latter part of the book. So we're just going to do rule number 3 today. Of course, rule number 1, which we've already talked about, is to aspire, to share your hopes and dreams for the culture. But aspire. Share your hopes and dreams for the culture. We, as you know, Rainey Used Cars, our intention is to have a culture of care. I mean, it's about caring for the customer. It's about caring for each other. It's about caring about the quality of your work, your performance, everything that we do. If you have a consistent level of care, one of the worst things to hear in any organization or any person to ever say is, "I don't care." If that happens in a marriage relationship, it's pretty much over. If it happens in a business relationship, it's pretty much over. Care is essential, and we want to become the greatest car company by being the greatest care company, and that started with an emphasis with taking care of the customer, taking care of the customer. Customer's always right. Let's take care of the customer. One of the things that has developed in a lot of very successful businesses is not just the caring for the customer, that is important, but also caring for the employees, because if you take good care of your employees, the employees will take better care of your customers. Well, this is, Vicky's been working on this. These plants were bought at exactly the same time from exactly the same location. They have just pretty much had 2 different environments to grow up under, one of which is trying to take care of it, having it in the correct sunlight, correct nutrition. This one has been hidden in the closet for about 3 weeks or so now. I don't think this one's going to make it, and it looks like this one is doing pretty well. So thanks, Vicky. Had a lot going on today, so she couldn't be here. But that's kind of what happens with culture. If you don't pay attention to it, it'll wither. One of Warren Buffett's greatest quotes talks about businesses that can wither and things that can cause that to happen. And so, very, very important that we care about our culture, because we might think of it as unnecessary. It might be mostly invisible, but it's just like those 2 fish swimming along in that water is absolutely essential. We draw our life from it. And if that culture ever crumbles or withers in this company will follow suit. It's just a fact. But so the aspiration is to take care, to be a caring company. Aspire. Share your hopes and dreams for the culture. That's one of the cool things about before I ever even got here, is that was already taking place. Number 2, and Bob covered aspire, and he's also covered amplify. And share your hopes and dreams for the culture. That's not the right subtitle there, but it is important that we amplify. It means, for instance, one of the things that's happening this morning as I speak to you is my voice is being amplified because of this microphone so that you can actually hear me. That means to enhance, promote the culture, to make it more obvious, to make it evident, to not just talk about it, but to live it. I think I've shared with you already that Netflix has when they bring people on to their company, they have a presentation that they educate them with. I think it's, I don't know if it's Excel, but it's 120 or 124 slides. I think each slide has 4 points on it. Can you imagine coming into class today and say, okay, we're going to go through all 120 of these? That'd be pretty extensive. But here's what's interesting about Netflix. Y'all know what Netflix is, don't you? Very successful company. Did it just happen? No. it's by design that company's been successful, and they've had to make some adaptations and changes just like any successful company does. But one of the interesting things is when Mark Miller and his team were doing research, they actually had the privilege of talking with some of the executives at Netflix. And they asked this question of one of their executives. They said, basically, I'm just summarizing here, how often do you talk about culture? And the person that was asked this question actually had somewhat of a shocked look on their face. Like, why would you even ask me that? It's every day, almost in every conversation. That's how important it is to that company. Is it important to us? It probably is much more so than we realize. You know, who would have ever thought that just the surroundings would affect two plants so differently? The surroundings in a company, the ambience in a company, the culture of a company affects people. So we want to amplify the care factor in everything that we do. And the third thing that we're going to be looking at today is to adapt. Make things better, to make things better by always working to enhance the culture, adapting. I had an interesting experience when I was in the 6th grade. My dad wanted me to be a football player, and he wanted me to be a baseball player as well. And so I grew up throwing a football and throwing a baseball, and by the time I was about 5 years old, I was wearing, had a baseball glove, bat, was out on the little field. When it came to football, I had the little helmet, and I was getting out there. I mean, literally from 5 or 6 years of age, I played football. Played all the way up through to the varsity level. I won't tell you all of that story, but I remember in the 6th grade, something happening very significant. I played for the Albany Raiders. We were the city champions. We beat everybody around. And so as a championship kind of game, they had another team that said they were better than us come in from another town for the final, okay, who's the best? Now, I'll have to ask God when I get to heaven about this, but one of the players on that team had the number 34 on his jersey. I do believe his name was Herschel Walker. I Googled it, and I can't find out for sure, but I remember our coach saying, you have got to convince them that you are tough. He said, he had never told us this before a game before. He said, if we can't stop this one guy on this team, we're going to get plowed over. He said, just pick up a handful of dirt and put it in your mouth, chew it up and swallow it when you first get down there on the line, and let them know how tough you are. Of course, I didn't do that, but would you not know, we played offense and defense. That's just the way our team did. And special teams too. So I remember number 34 coming through my slot. First time I ever saw him and realized how big those legs were. He plowed over me like I wasn't even there. Man, I felt like I'd been hit by a pickup truck. I was like, poof, just laid out there. I was like, dang, that is a tough guy. So guess what? The next play was. Same spot. Hey, we just ran over that guy. He looks big and tough, but we just plowed right over him. So the next slot, he came through. And listen, I'm not trying to fabricate this. I really think it was Herschel Walker. And I won't know till I get to heaven. I haven't been able to figure it out from my Google searching, but I know that's about the time that he started playing football. But anyway, just not enough documents for 6th grade football. But anyway, city league.
There would be now.
Yeah, there would be now. Yeah, that's true. This was, gosh, way back. So guess what? I was looking for him this time. I didn't know it was going to be the very next play, but I kind of stepped it up a little bit. And so when he came, it was the same play. And then, man, here he comes. And I saw it coming. He still plowed over me, but I did get him down. I think he drove me about 5 yards, but I did get him down. What did I do? I adapted. I made a little bit of a change. I kind of upped the ante a little bit and got a better grip when I got popped. But still, maybe that's not the best illustration, but listen, making changes in what we do is important for survival. I think one of the sentences that I really, really like, let me see if I can find what page this is on. I can almost quote it, but I'm afraid to try to do so. Yeah, it's on page 173. If you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. Jeff Bezos, one of the things that he gets asked is, what's going to change in the next 10 years? He said, that's one of the most common questions. He said, what's not going to change? He said, I never get asked that question. He said, a lot of things change. And change is not something that we should think of as a bad thing. Making changes is important. Learning to adapt is very, very critical. Bob, things have changed quite a bit from the way that Rainey Used Cars used to be up in the metropolis of Brownwood. I think I probably told y'all this story. You know, I remember Thursday mornings, I'd hear the truck, the 2-car hauler truck crank up early in the morning before the sun came up. Bob and Snooks would hop in that truck and head off to Atlanta to go to the auction. And hopefully they would come back with 2 Buick LeSabres. And they'd put them out there on that little gravel lot, and that was their car sales. I mean, a lot of adaptations have taken place with the way that Rainey Used Cars. One little shop, I mean, this thing has just exploded into what it is. So, and a lot of things have taken place, you know, in the company that have changed and made it better. And that's really what we want to do with the culture. And they use, Mark uses the illustration of the All Blacks rugby team, and how this is an opening illustration in this section. Bailey, you're the one that brought us that video of the All Blacks, and you know, I don't know what I would do if I were on the opposing team and those All Blacks. How many of y'all seen the haka thing that they do?
Just so you know, the women's team does it too.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yes, it is just as intimidating.
I mean, they started in like 1903.
It really is.
I mean, but they'll get out there, and man, it is like, I was like, oh my God, if Herschel Walker had gotten out there and in the 6th grade, I mean, I probably would have just walked. If he had done something like that, I'd probably just said, listen, he's going to run slam over me. I'm not even going out on the field. That's kind of probably how a lot of them feel, but the opposing teams usually try to stand up to it. But now listen, in spite of all of that, I mean, listen, it was your dream if you lived in New Zealand to be on that team. They were the inspiration for their entire country. That's what young boys wanted to be when they grew up. Kind of like when my dad wanted me to be a football player. Well, but even more so in New Zealand. Well, they did great for a long period of time. But in 2004, they suffered an agonizing defeat. Shocked. Did it happen was it a fluke? No. Something had happened internally in the culture of the team that caused them to not pay attention to the changes that needed to be made. Whether it was personal discipline, team discipline, the plays, and they lost to South Africa, the most humiliating defeat I think they probably ever experienced. Were the players excited about that? No, so they all went out and got drunk. You know, it turned into just, terrible. And so it was a terrible time for them. But what did they do? They said, well, that's the end of our era. No, they adapted. They began to make changes to their structure. They began to make changes to their team. They began to make individual commitments on a personal level. How many of y'all are Star Wars fans? Are you?
Ashamed.
Are you really? Okay. You too? Okay. Anybody else?
By marriage.
Huh?
By marriage.
Okay. All right. I really wasn't either. What's that?
Yeah, I like the old ones.
Okay. Yoda. Do you know any quotes by Yoda? I only know one.
Spot.
Huh? Okay. Do or do not. There is no try. You know who I've heard first say that? Well, I first read it, and I heard John Tehran say it. I was like, way of the Jedi? Do or do not, there is no try. One of the things that the All Blacks changed, I'm just summarizing what's in the book here, was that it was things I do today. And they had different levels, 7 or 8 different levels for each individual. It changed on an individual level. They made some adaptations to it. Listen, they were committed, but they just got off target just a little bit. And I think 2 of the things that it mentions was that caused them to, they believe, lose like they did was number 1, apathy. Y'all remember what the second one was that was listed? Entitlement. What is it? Well, let's go to apathy. What's apathy?
Lack of concern.
Okay. Don't care.
Effort.
Don't care. Yeah.
Don't care.
We have people that come to work today in this organization that don't care. Well, is it one of the things you said is probably the worst thing to have? I just want to get through the day mentality. We have people that are on board on the team. Yeah, unfortunately. But is that a good attitude to have? You're going to be successful? Is the rugby team, the All Blacks, are they going to be successful if they have one team member out there that doesn't care? No. But that's what had crept in, this I don't care attitude. Whether it was individual discipline. Now, listen, I don't like that play. I don't like the structure of the games. I don't like where we're going to play. I don't like the schedule. And I'm just going to pitch a fit. And, and slowly but surely that affected the culture of that team. And listen, we don't quite understand. Maybe we do a little bit. You're a big Atlanta Braves fan. I mean, I am too. Do y'all remember Atlanta Falcons?
Oh, gosh.
He actually... what happened in the Super Bowl when they played?
Can't talk about it.
Still too soon.
Yeah, I really cannot watch. If I see it on TV, I can't watch it.
Yeah.
You talking about 28-3 when they blew the lead?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Make sure we're talking about that.
Yeah.
Let's say the actual stuff.
That was, I was so excited for them. I was watching that game and I was thinking, man, finally the Atlanta Falcons is going to win a Super Bowl. Oh my goodness. And then it just, I guess it was somewhere in the end of the third quarter that it started. Maybe I shouldn't have. Okay, he doesn't want to talk. He really doesn't want to talk about it. So that started to change. And, in the game, and I remember seeing a video clip, and I couldn't hear what the gentleman said. It was a Falcons player, and they had just scored, and 28-3, and they were just like, "Whoa, we got this!" Man, and the body language of this particular player was like on the sidelines. He's blabbing about something. You could tell it was like this totally arrogant. We got this, man. We're the best team ever. If we don't, well, guess what happened? That's right. Tom Brady. And listen, the video clip of if I remember right in my little brain here, the video clip of this Falcons guy just being all pumped up was followed by Tom Brady sitting on the sidelines with his head down. And I was like, man, that is so strange to see. But guess what? He didn't keep his head down. They made some changes. But I believe what happened with the Falcons, they got a little bit apathetic. There's no way in one quarter they can come back and outscore us. Well, they did. And they beat them. One of the most devastating come from behind defeats probably in any Super Bowl in history at the hands of, the Atlanta Falcons. So that was apathy, but also entitlement. Now, what does entitlement mean? That's what happened.
I think you deserve it,
Yeah, okay. Kind of like those two fish swimming in the water. We don't even realize what all the benefits and blessings there are of being in this company. And listen, I'm not saying we should be agents or want to be people of change just for change's sake. Lisa, you guys have been going through a few little challenges with the change that's ongoing right now, just started. I say it just started, actually started some time ago, with changing the payroll system. That's why Vicky's not here today, some of the wrinkles with rolling that out. Now, why are we doing that? We're doing it just so we can have we got a different payroll system?
No.
We're doing it to make what? Make things better. Yeah, it will. Now, it's been very difficult. You've been on the road. Vicky's been on the road. A lot of questions, probably a lot of criticism that we don't know about. But I just want to give a shout out to you guys. Thank you. Thank y'all for being on the front end of making a change. Listen, making changes is not easy. We talked about Ford Motor Company and some of the changes that they hired a daggum aviation expert to come in and run a motor company with Ford when they were projected to lose. Y'all remember the amount they were projected to lose? We talked about this last time I was here. $18 billion. And so it wasn't a Henry Ford. ancestor that came in there, but one of them had enough sense to say, hey, we need to make a change. They adapted, made that change, and in just a few years, they were profitable again to the tune of, I think, the first time they turned a profit, there was $6.6 billion in the positive. So, making changes. Listen, Bob, if Audrey said, and Thomas had you come in their office and said, hey, we're going to lose, $8 million this year. You think you'd be making any changes?
Yep.
Be trying to figure out what in the world is going on. And so I'm so thankful for the, Zach and the people that keep up with the numbers, and Thomas and Audrey crunching the numbers, Mike in the insurance department. Man, there's just so every person that has an incredible importance level here in this company, and to make it successful. And it's something we have to be very careful of. The culture, which you also got to look, was one of the things from the book Good to Great. Confront the brutal facts. Sometimes you just gotta see where you are, and so we're very, very disciplined and paying attention to that. But culturally speaking, with the All Blacks, they made some changes. They made some serious changes. They actually had this 100-year-old chant that they would do, but that was kind of considered almost like sacred. But what did they do? They wrote another one with a renewed commitment. They didn't do completely away with them, and they still quote the old one, but they also quote the new one. And I'm not going to read it to you; it's in the book. But they made some cultural changes, and it was on an individual basis, it was on a structural basis, and it was on a team basis. It went throughout the organization, and they have won 77% of their games since making that change. They could have just gone and said, we don't know what happened. We thought we were just always going to be the champions, but they did not. And neither can we in the business world have that mentality. We must be willing to always work to enhance the culture. We must diligently monitor and enhance the culture. This is in the middle of page 173, just above the line I read to you earlier. What is that next word that's in italics? Do y'all see that? It's first. What's that?
Forever.
What's that mean?
Forever means without end.
Okay. As long as this business is in existence, we'll be working if we're going to be successful. Listen, we have been. Thank God. This is people like, Rainey Used Cars. I saw somebody, I think we were in Boston, and somebody from the Valdosta area said, yeah, man, I saw a Rainey car down in Valdosta the other day. Y'all must be a pretty big organization. Listen, I am proud to be a part of such a wonderful group, such a wonderful company. And I might have already told y'all this. Jody and I went to a little play down in Colquitt called Swamp Gravy. You know what Swamp Gravy? Ever been to Swamp Gravy? Okay. How many of y'all been? You been? Okay. Little country play thing. Walked outside. Katie and Mark went with us. We walked outside and standing out there talking to them just before we parted ways and went home. Doggone, there wasn't a car with a Rainey tag on it right close to where I was parked. I was like, ha! In Colquitt, Georgia. Now, listen, having a tag, the name on it, on a car is not the epitome of success, but what we do in this building, what we do in our relationships with each other, the way that we handle ourselves, the way we take care of people, that is what makes us successful, makes us grow. We don't want to just get bigger. We don't have more dealerships and more cars on the road. We want to be better from the inside out. What happened with All Blacks, I think the phrase in the book is there was a rot from within. Can that happen to us? Yeah. Can we become apathetic? Absolutely. That's a challenge every single day. Can we think that we're entitled to this? Well, I deserve this? The reality of the matter is none of us really do. If we're honest, we really don't deserve. Like those two fish swimming in the water, they didn't really deserve that. And you realize what they had. Sometimes we're that way too. But if we're going to be the kind of company that we need to be, we need to continue to adapt, continue to make changes.
We hope as you listen to this podcast, it'll motivate and challenge your team. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the Rainey Leadership Podcast.